Hi, I'm Empress Lawton, and welcome to my journey going from analog dating to navigating a sea of romance scammers online. Sit back and relax as I share stories and provide you with invaluable tips on how to avoid being scammed. My journey began when my marriage of 20 years ended during COVID, which I'm very thankful for. But this did mean that I wanted to move on to online dating that I thought was really exciting when my friends were doing it. But when it was my turn, it was really overwhelming, swiping right, swiping left. And that first week where I selected a couple of people to talk to, that's when I started realizing that this may not be for me, but I made the most of it and I kept going through. I did meet someone right away, about 2 weeks in, really just way above my league. I'm like, why is this guy even talking to me? So I immediately started sensing, like, this can't be real. He must want something from me. But he was a master at convincing and love bombing, and that's when I first learned about love bombing. But anyway, this man, who I will tell you a lot more about later, he opened my eyes up to having to be really careful. During that time that we were talking, I had started talking to a few other gentlemen, and the story of this episode, I'm going to focus on Bobby McCall, but I do want to tell you that before I really caught on to Bobby being a scammer, I did, in fact, the very first guy that I mentioned that love bombed me and everything else, I captured him. I caught him. He confessed that he was a scammer, and I'm writing a book about it, and we will talk about that in the final episode of this season. But I will just kind of say that that final story is going to be interesting. That book's going to be extremely helpful, but these tips and tricks that it's going to start with Bobby McCall. That's not his real name. That's the fictitious name he used. And later when I caught him, he confessed that that was the name of the main character from Teen Wolf. So the story of this gentleman that I thought was extremely handsome, but really not my type at all. He was supposedly from Turkey, which is tip number one. A lot of these folks that are using, and I really do love Nigerians, so I'm not going to really say anything about that, but most of the 50 plus scammers that I have caught have been from Nigeria. But Bobby was a master storyteller, and he ended up creating this amazing background story of this gentleman, Bobby McCall, that in reality, Moses, I'm not really going to share many names, but I will share his name. He was indeed a 22-year-old, but he was pretending to be the father of one, single parent of and his mom died in childbirth and was from Spain, and dad was from Spain, mom was from America. He was raised in Turkey of all places. And why do you have an Irish last name? And his aunt's husband was Irish and he took his last name. And so anyway, point being, I asked so many questions and he quickly came up with the story out of the blue and kind of for some time convinced me that that was really him. So one thing to note is that I know a lot of different accents and I'm very familiar with the world and the cultures. And so if someone is, you're talking to them online and they're saying they grew up in Germany or whatever, like you can actually find ways with Google Translate to check on these facts that what they're telling you. So a lot of times that knowledge of languages has really helped me a lot. Anyhow, so Bobby was pretending to be this gentleman living in California, yet every picture he would send me had him in like a Speedo and some things that is just not what American men wear. So I began questioning a lot of things. So He told me that his daughter had this fear of having her photo taken because he would never share with me his daughter's picture. So finally, this is around the time I finally caught him. He finally sent me a picture of him on a subway that looked very European. And there was a woman that this girl was supposed to be like 13, but there was a woman that looked like she was in her 20s. So this went on for a little bit longer, and he finally sent me another one of these pictures for me to look at, and I realized that he forgot to crop out the Instagram. He did a snapshot of the screen, right, and forgot to crop out the details of the individual whose pictures he had been stealing. So when I saw the name and I looked up the gentleman whose picture was being used, they were of a 40-year-old gay fitness model. And it all made sense why I got so many Speedo pictures of him, and the focus of the picture was his ass. So it was all very clear, and we were talking on the phone all the time, and again, very Nigerian, but no like real Nigerian accent that I could pick up. And what his excuse was when we first started talking was that he was mute for the first 5 years of his life. So anyhow, I bring that up because during my first week of dating, I went on a date with a Jamaican, and then a guy who had been in a gang and had been shot 13 times, and then a deaf man that went to the same college that I went to, and then I started dating a mute. So I do stand-up comedy, and I just thought it was hilarious. It sounded like this fabulous mix of individuals, deaf, mute, gang. So anyway, I really just... when I got this picture, then realized that he was using pictures from a gay fitness model. I'm a very nice person, but I started screaming at him on the phone, "Who the hell are you?" and all this. And I said, "Why are you using pictures from a gay fitness model?" And I was yelling at him, but he started laughing so hard. He had zero clue that he was using pictures of a gay man. So, and this comment was very interesting. He said, "I didn't send you my real picture because American women don't like black men." So I ended up sending him a couple of pictures of people that I had been talking to. And in reality, I do like black men. It was just the most ridiculous decision that he made. But anyway, as I kept screaming at him, he said, "Mama Bear, you're being more like a grizzly bear right now." So I was really, really, really angry. But when I was telling him that I could keep talking to him, I like him, he was a really good guy, and he told me he's 22, I had to cut things off. So, but I'm just joking around that we're still actually friends. But this tip that I want to teach you guys is the pictures that I was looking at, I easily could have done a reverse image lookup. And I learned that after talking to him, that it was so easy to do that. And it would have actually popped up in the reverse image lookup that this gentleman's account was indeed Nathan Ilias, gay fitness model from Barcelona, Spain. As I expand on how I got into this romancing the scammer situation, we got to go back to the very first scammer that I caught, and the one that the book is about. So this gentleman was named Killian V. Lettner. And from the beginning, like I mentioned, he was just this gorgeous man that totally, like a divorced mom of two, should not be talking to. When I initially clicked on his picture, the only reason I clicked on it was to find out where he was at in the one picture in the profile that I found out later he was in Pompeii. So I only wanted that. And then when he started really, really just telling me I walked on water essentially and said, "I love you" after 10 days and all this, this is when I started doing my investigating online about love bombing and reverse image lookup and all of these things. So this gorgeous man was really the same as the pictures. A lot of times, and this is where I can tell when people are using a celebrity's picture or something. Most of the time they're using someone, like what you call catfishing, but if sometimes they are actually using their own picture. So I was not able to ever find anything that he ever sent me online. He also had a video chat with me, so I knew he was very real. And also, I was actually basically his job. So it was his job to call all the women he was scamming every morning and all the women he was scamming at night. But anyway, long story short, he did happen to start falling in love with me, and he changed the whole method of being on the job and really started messing up. So those are some times that I could tell that it was fake, but because, as my friend put it, I'm a golden retriever, and I want to see everything that's good in them, and I want them to love me. So I closed my eyes to all of those little hints and tricks that he was doing, that he was hinting to me, that he was, tricking me. But again, I outsmarted him. And one of the reasons that I finally caught him was the reverse image lookup tool that I was mentioning. It's something that there's many companies, but I used the free version that it's through Google. And I began putting all of those pictures. Like I said, nothing ever came up. But I also was a friend of his on LinkedIn, and that beautiful LinkedIn profile picture, it was the only picture that I had not looked up. And one day I finally looked that up, and jackpot, I discovered that he was indeed living in a different city, a different country. But anyhow, so that saved me from continuing on in this situation. And you'll read about it in the book, hopefully when that comes out. But I messed with him for about like 7 to 10 days. I can't remember. And he knew when we talked about it, he knew that I was onto him. But during that time that going back, it was even evident to my daughter when she looked at some pictures that he had sent me, that the man was in Europe in some of these pictures. The outlet on the wall was not the American style outlet. There was an air conditioning unit that was on the wall, and very different than anything you'd see in the US. It's the kind that I have in my Morocco house. It was really clear, but I looked at all those pictures many, many times and didn't see that. So that, to me, tells me that, again, I just had these rosy glasses, what do you call it, rose-colored glasses, and I wasn't paying attention to what was really in front of me, because I really, truly wanted to be in love and wanted him to be in love with me. So anyway, so that is what was going on in my mind, and that is why I'm looking out for all of you to try and tell you how to use these tools. And I will have more tips in the next episode. So ultimately, when I got this gentleman that was pretending to be Kilian Vergaard Lettner, he confessed to me. And I had my heart broken, but I turned this heartbreak into a solution to basically become a scam hunter. So I turned it around, and I have caught so many people and rehabilitated a few of them. They're no longer scamming. This is one of the stories out of many as to why I became the romance scam hunter. Let the rhythm hit.